Welcome to Three Dad Bods, the nexus of entertainment and news. Well, not exactly your first stop, but no doubt you will laugh, you will cry, but you will be entertained.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Three Dad Bods with Brent and Carl. Three Dad Bods with two.
I know it's we might have to do something about that someday, but you always it ends up turning up like a bad penny. You never know. One day Sean will be on there and you'll be like, and he's not dead. So for you guys that think that we're going to make another crass joke, we're not going to do that this time. Maybe Brent will. But
Everybody's dead.
There you go again. Yeah, please don't believe that. Please don't believe he's dead. Brent's just a jackass. Next.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Yes, about a month ago, almost to the day, visited everybody back in the old land of sound. It's catch up with a lot of you out there. Heard a lot of positive things about our podcast, and through the summer months, and actually for the last few months, we've both been extremely busy. But we'll fit one of these in here every now and then, and hopefully get everybody caught up to what's going on, stuff out there.
Yeah, it's been busy. Summer's that way for everybody, right? And so it's kind of hit or miss. Yeah, we have been a little inconsistent. We apologize. But on the other hand, you'd rather hear something interesting than just boring weekly renditions of what our schedules were like, which kind of get old very quickly. But a lot of stuff's going on in the world right now, Brent.
But before we jump into that, though, I just want to say, I talked about it with you when we were visiting, and Carl and I, we got together. We had some good CC, much better than
that's right. Yeah.
In Arizona. Played some golf down in Top Golf down in the land of the Hat Valley. But I have to say, I was just so blown away by, I know the area has grown and it's changed, and, over 20 years, all kinds of things changed, but that whole, Lehigh area up in there, and I just completely unrecognized at all. Just all the buildings that have gone up, almost like a small little metro center gone up. It used to be just Thanksgiving Point and stuff down there. And now, Adobe is over there, and just incredible how much everything has grown.
It's blown up. I thought it was funny. We go to Top Golf and we're going in the building, and Brent's like, "Isn't this where Geneva Steel was at?" I'm like, "No, yeah, Geneva Steel is a long time ago." I mean, there's kids that were born and now they're adults that don't remember Geneva Steel. But
And I've gone back over the last, a couple of weeks. I've been listening to our old podcast, and one of those I talked about a trip that I was on down in Birmingham, and mentioned how abandoned everything is, and most of it is just these large steel plants that are just vacant. They're humongous. They are enormous. And then seeing what Utah Valley, and all of them did to Geneva down there, those are the kinds of things that, Birmingham and needs to kind of take a look at a rejuvenation project.
Sure.
I don't know if there's, health risks with the ground and the chemicals. I don't know any of that stuff. I'm no scientist. I just play one on the radio. It's a really good thing that they've done down there. A little kind of entertainment district, I guess you could call it.
Oh, and they have a lot of homes. They have beautiful homes in that area. It's called Vineyard, and they, these are $1 million homes just short of the lake. Now, they haven't accounted for the fact if it ever rains like it did in '83 that some of those homes are going to have some issues. But other than that, it's a fantastic area.
I saw that
the way they designed it.
For Utah Valley University, UVU, I guess.
Yeah.
Bravo. Good job taking an ice. It was an eyesore. Let's be honest.
It was ugly.
Rusty red stack for, about a mile long or whatever. Just vacant, doing nothing at all.
Well, the next step is the lake. They've had a lot of issues with pollution there. I used to swim in that thing, so it's kind of funny. But they have a sewer plant by American Fork that's just right off the edge of the lake, and then they have Geneva for years causing pollution, and so they need to get in the lake and dredge it basically. And then they're even talking about putting a community in the middle of the lake on a man-made island, so you could have two big bridges that cross right over to Saratoga Springs. So it eliminates, I mean, it's tough. You have to go to Lehigh and then over.
Yeah.
And last night I was on the main artery coming from Saratoga to I-15, and it was hell. I mean, just so much traffic. So
Shanklin or Pacing, or is that where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And eventually, they want a kind of a freeway that goes around that part of the lake and then also up to Salt Lake. So Utah County probably has the ability to, well, I don't think it'll ever get population-wise as high as Salt Lake County, but as far as amenities, as far as kind of a cool place to live, Utah County's probably, it's probably one of the better places in Utah now. So a lot of millionaires live down there. I mean, it's incredible how many tech millionaires have moved to Utah because of I think they call it the Wasatch Silicon Slopes or Wasatch Slopes, something like that. It's kind of weird.
But nobody wants to live in California, right? Still,
hell no.
California's coming over, right?
Well, Newsom doesn't even want to live in California. Kamala doesn't want to live in California. Speaking of Kamala, could you imagine? Well, I'm sorry, but could you ever imagine in a million years that she could be our president in November?
Let me ask you some questions. Only answer yes or no, though. Don't elaborate. Just answer yes or no. Okay.
Makes me sick.
Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
Well, to be honest, right now, for me personally, better, but there's some factors for that. There's some reasons for that are unrelated to the economy.
Only yes or no. Only yes or no.
Yeah, okay. Financially, I'm better off right now.
Okay. But tax-wise, are you?
Oh, hell no. I'm getting worried.
Grocery-wise, are you?
Oh, no, it's a lot more expensive.
Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Is it correct that the majority of the people that you talk to in your line of work, it's safe to say, upper middle class to upper class, correct? In talking with them, do any of those people think that the economy is good?
Well, no. There's a lot of people who are retired that hate it right now. Yeah.
Yes or no? No. There we go. So my question is, and I have yet to talk to anybody who's like, wow, our economy is really booming. Wow, things are going very. Why would we continue this path?
Well, most of it's just the cost of everything. Everything's gone up so much.
I know, but why would we vote for somebody who's responsible for that? I don't understand people's thinking on why they would be behind her. And then I begin to think if the whole Joe Biden thing was completely planned out from the beginning, from the very, very of the election process, and they knew there's no way that he's ever going to win. We're going to put him into a debate that's going to blow up in front of his face, and we can put her in. Because let's face it, she is not an intelligent person. She's being controlled by whatever. She does not have the ability to make her own decisions. So it's the most undemocratical way to put a leader into a position. It's a coup.
Well, she still hasn't done a
30
interview.
38 days, no interviews.
Yeah, no interviews. She didn't win one delegate in the regular primaries. It was almost like a big waste of time at least for the Democrats.
And if I'm a Democrat, I would be furious.
Oh, absolutely.
But they just almost like it's almost like the sheep mentality. Well, they're telling me this is good, great, everything, so it must be great, everything.
Well, they did the same thing when Hillary ran against Trump in 2016. The superdelegates were guaranteed to Hillary Clinton before the primaries even began. So she already had a 900 vote lead on anybody else. And so it was just a foregone conclusion she was going to be the candidate. Yeah, the Democratic Party is definitely not a democratic process. Yeah, they are far from being democratic. And that's what my Democrat friends don't realize is you guys are being led around by the nose. You have no say in who your candidate is.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or what your government is and will become. And now just recently we've seen Kennedy Jr. endorse Trump, which it was kind of along the wall, which way he's going to go. Do you think him endorsing Trump now shows that Trump really is a big favorite and the media is just kind of hyping us along oh, well, let's neck and neck. Because I talked very few people that I talked to are saying that they would vote for Kamala or Camilla or Camel Y. It's like I like to call her.
Well, I'll tell you, the Democrats' only strategy, and Bobby talked about it in his speech the other night, and then he was into with Trump the next night in one of Trump's rallies. And yeah, the only strategy Democrats have right now is vote against Trump. That's it. They don't talk about the economy. They don't talk about foreign relations. They don't talk.
Just throw these little things out there like, if you want, we're going to attack the economy and we're going to go after grocers and impose fines on them.
That's insane.
It is the dumbest philosophy. That is the equivalent of a football team saying, you know what? It's like Tennessee and Alabama playing. Tennessee saying, we're stopping Alabama by going after their kicker. We are going to stop their kicker.
It's interesting because there are Venezuelans now on record on X and other social media saying this is exactly what the socialist candidate, the guy that's running that country right now, said when he took office, that he was going to put price fixes on everything. And the exact opposite happened. There were people, you think about it. You're producing a product, right? You're a business. And some entity says, no, all you can charge is this. Well, my expenses are this.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Well, are you going to continue to produce that product or are you going to shut your doors and then there's going to be a scarcity of the product that you provide because more and more companies like yours are going to be out of business. It's simpler logic, which fails to escape her. Yeah.
It's like when we were attacking the drug industry. Okay. And one of the higher ups was like, why are we going after people that are the end user? Like, why are we arresting, the people that are on the drugs?
No.
We need to go to the source where it's coming from. The source is fuel. Everything begins with fuel. Whether you like it or not, whether you want your electric car or not, everything runs off of fuel. The first phase of that is the trucking industry. And I don't just say that because I'm in it. I see it because I see it.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with freight. And if freight costs go up because fuel goes up and fuel surcharges go up, everything along the line. It isn't just grocery. Why are you attacking just grocers? It's furniture. It's retail. It's gym membership. It's everything across the board. And it all begins at the bottom with the simple basis of fuel. If you drop fuel back down to where we're only paying under $2, I guarantee you the economy is going to raise right back up and people will start buying it.
I'm telling you, here's my theory with what's going on right now. Number one, the media, the MSNBC, CNN, cabal, they've always hated Trump and they couldn't get excited behind Biden. They couldn't rally people behind Biden. The Kamala, this whole thing about free rent and all this other BS that they're talking about right now, it's 100% the gin up their base. Their base was checked out. They were done.
Nuggets.
Yeah. The people who are going to vote against Kamala haven't changed at all. I did talk to one guy on the phone the other day. I was trying to sell him a coin. And man, it's so hard when you're talking to stupidity. But this guy was from Vermont and, he was moaning about Trump mostly. And I'm a vet, and I've heard a thing about Waltz making up his, I think there's some story about his veteran status. And and we'll look into that as much, but this guy was like, it just turned sour and sour the longer I talked to him. I'm voting for Kamala. I'm like, do you know much about it? Doesn't matter. It's Trump that I don't want as president. I'm like,
right.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
So reality is you have no clue what's going on. You just are voting against someone that you don't like.
That's exactly what you find. You say to somebody who says that they're going to vote for her, say, all right, give me 5 reasons why without mentioning the word Trump. And they cannot, or like I seen somebody that was interviewing people at the DNC, and they're like, yeah, we're voting for Kamala. And like, oh, that's fantastic. What's your favorite thing that she's done over the last 4 years? Like a positive question, right? Not coming at him, not attacking. What's your favorite thing? And it's, I don't know. I just really like her. I feel she's doing what's best for the country. Okay. What
is for joy and hope, Brent? Joy and hope.
She's for alcoholism is what she is.
Well, that's another thing. So, okay, let's talk about how one-sided the media is just for fun, because they really are. All right. So Trump was prosecuted before the 2016 election because him and this guy named Lopez, I guess, so that was one of these, they do the celebrity, 30, 40-minute show. And that Mario, I think it was Mario Lopez or someone, it was right before the election. And Trump had said something about grabbing their, nether regions. Yeah. Did Trump do that? Probably. I just said it. Yeah, he could have often in a conversation with someone. Was he guilty of being a rural rammer in the 80s, to be honest? The way we talked and the way we communicated, and sometimes the way some people acted, what we consider sexual assault abuse now isn't necessarily what they considered it back then. But that aside, disgusting behavior or not, everybody that's lived through those decades. I mean, there's some saints among us, but there are quite a few. If everybody had their background sifted through like Trump did, you're going to find things. Now, Kamala is very famous for one way she got to the top. And boy, if you mention that, the women get irate. It's like, how dare you? How dare you? And the reality is,
Carl, Google that. Like, the minute she took candidacy, Google swept all the negative stories off.
I know.
How does that?
How does the media claim they're impartial and unbiased and sit there and not put her through the same filtering and the same examination? And she just barely got put in that position to run against Trump. This is so undemocratic. It's almost like, some on the right calling it a coup. And in a way, I mean, have you heard anything from Biden since that?
No. The DNC, he spoke like jabbered some bullshit out.
Well, she's not running the country. So who the hell is running the country?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
I haven't heard any political moves or anything like that that's been going on. It's almost like nobody's behind the wheel. Cars just driving.
We've got aircraft carriers going to Israel. It's like Blinken's running the country right now, the Secretary of State. And then we've got American mercenaries caught in Kursk by Russians. We've got Russia now threatening Ukraine with tactical strategic nukes. And this time it's not just, this is getting a little hot. And everybody's just acting like everything's just fine here in this country. We got Kamala because she's got joy and hope going for her.
And this is what people don't realize. And Kennedy brought this up on a podcast recently. If we were to be attacked today by Japan, by Russia, by whoever, it would not be very good for the United States. We have no onshore manufacturing of military components at all. None of it.
Wow.
So once everything is gone, we don't have any way to repopulate that. That is very frightening. We do not have a way as a country to defend our own people.
Well, we better hope Zelensky will give us some of our arms back because we might need them.
It's all invested in his wife's breath is what it is.
Jeez, it's a mess. I wonder if Zelensky's plan is once they collapse and Russians roll into their was it Kiev? Is that how they pronounce it? I mean, it's just a matter of time, and that's what's scary to me. The one that's really worried me, and you don't hear anything from the Democrats on this, which doesn't surprise me because I don't think most of them even understand the concept. But there's a group now that are trying to get petroleum producers off the U.S. dollar. It's called BRICS, BRICS, and China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, and a bunch of other countries. And they're assigning other countries around the world one by one quickly to this consortium. So what they're going to do is it's backed up gold and silver, and so it's legit, and they are going to destroy the U.S. dollar. Which is fun. No one listening to this podcast, and most of the people listening to our podcast are very educated. I don't even think you guys understand the reality of what's going to happen here in this country. It's going to turn us into a pseudo second class. I wouldn't call us a third world country at that point, but there are parts of the United States right now that are third world. But we are going to go through a severe economic crisis, which none of us are prepared for. So this whole thing, and it's not just doom and gloom. This is reality. I mean, yeah, you can go buy your house, but I mean, are you going to have a job to pay for that mortgage in 5 years? You let the Democrats run this place another 30 years. That's exactly what's going to happen. Most of us are unemployed, and it's going to be a shit show. Sorry.
See that, those job numbers came out for I think it was March, where they lied about him, and it's actually a loss of jobs by over
800,000. Yeah, that's a little off.
Yeah.
I would have passed math if I was 800,000 off on my test.
Are you? I'm because I doubt she's going to ask any questions until this point. But when this debate happens, and I don't know how the Democrats are going to allow this to happen, she'll probably have one of these in, probably one on each side, telling her exactly what to say. But
she's salad time, baby.
Annihilated.
Let me tell you,
she is absolutely going to get annihilated.
Well, is it going to be Caesar salad or apple pecan? You know what? She's not going to make any sense. She's going to she's going to, you know what she's going to do? She's going to bait. Well, they're going to bait Trump to make him look mean. I think that's really, because she's pandering to the lowest common denominator voter. I mean, I'll be honest. I have people, as soon as she was announced, they're like, well, I think I'm going to vote for her because she's a woman. And
she's a woman. Wait, hold on. Wait.
But she's not Trump.
I thought the Democrats didn't want to have a label as a woman.
But that's all about labels. Democrats have always been about labels.
I thought that isn't, there is no women there. I thought that was part of it.
Well, here's, and to bring this back to a positive line of a positive in this conversation we're having today. Here's one of the things that I like about what's going on with RFK. Trump's actually reached out to RFK and has asked him to be a part of his future administration. Let's see, Governor. He was a Democrat running against Kamala in the 2016 or was it 2020? I can't remember which one, but she is now pro-Trump. Didn't even on just the other day said, I would be.
He's going to put out, he's talking about making a search engine to compete against Google that will be an unbiased search engine.
I mean, these are three Democrats.
Yeah. Very much.
I mean, three.
Elon is electric cars. I mean, he's right in the Democrats line.
Well, and JD Vance was selected primarily because he shuts up some of the real hardcore Romney Republicans. Well, some of them. And who knows if they even show up and vote anyway. For all I care, the Romney Republicans go shove it. So now you've got still some neocons left. And who's that guy from South Carolina? I can't stand. Always wants us in every war. Not Graham, but
yes, it is.
Is it Graham? Okay, yeah, that turkey needs to get voted out. But the reality is, we still have some people on the right in the center, leaning that are mainline.
But here's the difference too.
But is this really a Republican Party now?
And what he's doing is he's not looking at party affiliations. He's looking at the best person for the job, which is the way it should be in cabinet. You put people in who have an understanding of what you're putting them in. Education, have somebody with an education background. Transportation, somebody with a transportation background. What Biden did was he put people in positions based off of who they fuck. That's the only reason why. And I hate to
they work pantyhose or not.
Yes, but that's the only reason why. Put well, and look at what's happened in the transportation industry over the last 4 years. When you look at what Butlick has done, we have never had so many train derailments in a 4-year period, ever in the history of our country. It has been terrible. Our flight industry is terrible, suffering. He is failing on every avenue.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Well, I mean, one of the thoughts I had was when this country was first formulated, the founding fathers, there's no two-party system in the Constitution I've ever read about. Okay. And the reality is, I think Washington and some of the others, the only reason they went along with it, which they shouldn't have. Now, when you think back about it, they should have said, no, we're not doing it. It's purely a process where, the best person should win. And like what you were saying, Trump's putting together the best of our world right now that could, help America.
Help our country.
Yes, help America.
About. Yeah.
Well, that's the point. Help America first. If we help America first, the rest of the world will come along and we can help the rest of the world. But if we keep ignoring America and continue to worry about everything else that's not important, we're not going to have an America to worry about. And that's why I think George Washington and those guys back then, they should have banned political parties. And, because now look at the mess we've created. We seem to think that we have to have two parties. We have to have a Republican and a Democrat, and there cannot be any exceptions. But, Trump may break the mold. I think with this second administration, he's almost more of a populist candidate or a people's candidate and not a Republican this time, which is interesting because, definitely in 2016, I think the reason his first term wasn't successful, even though he'd had a lot of successes, was because he pandered too much to this whole, I got to be a Republican. I got to make Mitch happy. I got to make some of these Republicans happy. No, you don't. Just be what the people want. And that's what he's doing.
And I think we needed something like a Biden administration to really show the American people.
Oh, yeah.
We got to wake up. Like, we've got to get out of this type of mess. So let me ask you a question then, because I'm not telling people to vote for Trump. I am telling people not to vote for Harris. And I think it's safe to say that until a couple of days ago, you and I were both leaning towards Kennedy as that other candidate.
Oh, yeah. So, I was thinking about it.
With Kennedy not in it any longer, for those who do not like Trump, what other direction do we have? What other type of candidate do we have?
You really don't have much of an option now because I think all the independents are coalescing towards Trump because of this whole populist message that he is not beholden to the Republican Party. In fact, if you're an old guard type Republican, you're going to be on the outs with this guy. That's why you see DeSantis being real quiet. And I like DeSantis. I think he eventually should be a candidate.
I think we saw during these last debates. I don't think I like.
He tore Newsom apart in a separate debate.
But
how do you run against Trump? How do you run against that guy? He's a freaking tidal wave.
But what Trump was in 2016 was brash, arrogant, right in your face. What do you think today? He still has that, but he's toned it down and he's become more. They showed him with his family. They showed a softer side of Trump. And with DeSantis, I agree with his politics. I don't like his personality, though.
Well, he needs to work on that.
He's just,
he's kind of boring. Yeah, no, I hear you. I think
he's like Pence.
Yeah. Well, here's a question I have, and this is, you brought up personality with Trump. Before he was almost assassinated, I really didn't like him. He still, I felt, when I listened to some of his speeches, hadn't got it yet. Then after I was listening to the RNC, his speech, he seems like he had a come to Jesus moment and realized that he could be likable. Now, some people think, oh, he sounds like an old fuddy-duddy. No, he doesn't. That's just the way he talks. I think that's the way he's around his family. And he had to have this tough exterior because of the shots that his family and he were taking. And now he's like, you know what? Yeah, you guys don't. I really could care less what you think of me because there's a higher purpose here. And this is what I'm trying to do is serve the purpose and save our country. And that's really what this election is coming to. Do you want to continue to just dwindle into obscurity as a country and I guess have your ego fed if you're a low info voter? I mean, oh yeah, it's all rich people's fault. Won't do anything about it. We all could be just happy and lovey if we get of that evil guy Trump. Vote for me. I'll give you free everything, and then wake up, 6 months later and go, what the hell? I'm in a lot of trouble. Why don't I have? Why is a gallon of milk cost $10 now?
Yeah, and during that Republican convention, and other conventions have had this. They've had families come out, but I think, for whatever reason, they did it really good. Having his granddaughter come out like that.
It was beautiful.
Brilliant. Having the grandkids come across and the camera come across and the one sits on his lap and, he's talking to him and hugging him. That was brilliant. That the Democrats tried to do that and it failed drastically. It was incredibly boring what they tried to do. The other thing is day one of the the DNC, they said the word Trump 149 times.
Why didn't they just name it the Trump night? Yeah. Just call it Trump night. I mean,
during the whole Republican, they mentioned Biden 4 times.
And RFK mentioned him. And they don't even have to say that. RFK Jr.
don't
said
it. You don't have, and so all you have to do is point once around. When that debate with Trump and Biden was going on, every question was, you have failed at this. What are you going to do? You have failed at this. What are you going to do? You have failed at this. And then we've got Harris's people saying, hey, we're going to continue where we're going. Things are fantastic. And then what does she say? Day one, we're going to make a change. You're on 3.5 years in. Why
haven't you made changes so far? The people that are telling you what to say and think every 2 seconds, Kamala, are they going to really let you do all this stuff that you're claiming you're going to do? Hell no. It's all based on
you and I are together. And I'm like, hey, Carl, are you hungry? You're like, no, I'm not really hungry. And then I pull out like a Hershey Kiss from my pocket. I'm like, hey, you want this? You're like, oh my God, yes, I want a Hershey Kiss. That's what these little,
nuggets.
We're paying your student loans off. Oh, yes. Oh, look,
Well, Biden tried that. It failed miserably. So, didn't work out with the Supreme Court. Thank goodness the Supreme Court's still conservative. I mean, kind of.
It's just that. It's just, you can't do that. The money comes from somewhere. It doesn't just get wiped away and nothing happens. If you are a company that loans money to students, that's your business. Somebody can't come in and say, you need to wipe that clean. Well, that's not the way the economy works. That's not the way the society works.
Yeah, I seem to think so. They think we're stupid enough to continue to believe it. And a lot of people are. I mean, here's where it comes down to. The demographics haven't changed that much. The election is going to be tight. I think, though, that Trump's going to do a lot better than he did in 2020. And, he thinks he did really good in 2020, and maybe he did. I mean, he claims that there was a lot of fraud, which was never really proven. I mean, I'll give
him the state of Georgia. They're actually arresting that.
Okay, in Georgia. But the hard part is proving it, though. And in Arizona, it's kind of interesting. They just passed that the Supreme Court in Arizona said that they are allowed, because the legislature in Arizona overruled the libs in Maricopa County and basically said, we need voter ID, and they have to have voter ID or they can't vote. Democrats are fighting that tooth and nail, especially with illegals. And the government, the Republicans won this battle. And now the question is, the Democrats say, well, you can't prove any type of fraud in Arizona. Like, well, wait a minute. There were 40,000 illegal votes from illegals that got counted in that. If you took those out, the difference was like 1,000. I mean, Trump would have won. So Arizona would have gone to Trump. Georgia, as you say, would have gone to Trump, even if he lost Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, which is still, dude, I was up that night. It was 1 a.m. Central Time. I was at midnight here in Utah. and Trump was ahead big time in Wisconsin. And from nowhere, in 1 hour, flipped almost 90,000 votes went to Trump. I mean, Biden. Almost every single one of them that were counted went to Biden. Statistically, how is that possible?
It isn't.
Yeah, you see, so I just, and then Pennsylvania and the whole thing with their software and what happened. And I mean, okay, you can, I mean, I guess you can make an argument that maybe we're reaching a little bit on Pennsylvania, but the reality, it was damn close. And that's even with Philly going completely with Biden. So I think this election, again, is going to be close. I think Trump will actually draw more votes from some of the blue states that normally he doesn't. And even though it won't help him in the electoral college, it's going to help him in the general vote. I think the general vote is going to be damn close, or Trump's going to win it. And I think it's because of the consensus he's creating. I mean, I don't see anything. It'll be interesting to see what happens on that debate. It's in 2 weeks, right? It's getting close.
Yeah.
And that's it, probably, right? We're not going to have any more debates after that.
No, there's 3.
Oh, is there 3 now? I missed that. Okay.
There's 2 presidential and there's 1 vice presidential. So we're going to see JD Vance against Tampon Tim.
Oh, JD is going to destroy him. JD's smart. He's an intelligent guy. Wallace has never really impressed me.
And you're going to put a guy who has a proven track military record
against a guy that's a fake. Yeah.
And let me explain what happened. He left before they were deployed. His own unit, which you talk to any military man, that is a no-no. That is a disgraceful action on what he did. He's going to harp on it. And he continues, Tampon Tim continues to talk about how he had a gun and was serving. He didn't. Not one bit.
Yeah.
He did not. And the Dems were like, oh, well, what's the big deal? You shouldn't cut his military record. Well, it's not me or you that's cutting it. It is actual military people who have been in combat, who have served under leaders who served them under combat. They're the ones that are furious, absolutely furious. To take that and push it on you as an agenda is a flat out ridiculous lie. And that is a disgrace to our military veterans who have served in combat.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Well, we'll see what happens. Speaking of military veterans, my son, he's been gone 7.5 years. He's coming back this next week, Wednesday. And, wow. So we're planning some fun things this next weekend for him. And 7.5 years, staff sergeant. He was in the Airborne Division, served in Pensacola, not a tough place, but also served in Stuttgart. So that'll be fun to have him back. So we got a
neighborhood talk.
Yeah. Anything new?
Well, nothing new, but I kind of wanted to, I don't know, because a lot of the neighborhood people that I talked to when I was visiting and stuff, they said they had enjoyed hearing a lot of the memories and stuff like that went along, across the across our neighborhood and stuff. And I took a drive through there.
Yeah,
that's there.
So different when you get older.
My old house, they actually took the grass out completely in the front and put artificial turf in.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay.
I mean, it's less expensive, but.
Yeah, but it looks horrible. I think I've seen it. It's okay. It looks, maybe they need to repaint the house a different color, but the turf doesn't look good now with the color of the house.
I've noticed a lot more of the desert landscape for yards there than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's I don't know though. This year has been a lot of rain. Like the last month we've had torrential rain once or twice a week. So
bring it here. We need it.
That can be here. It's been crazy. But
yeah,
I think the neighborhood's a little more run down, and some people take really good care of their homes, and then some people don't. That's just a reality anywhere you live. So
I think it was always like that, though.
I think so.
When you're living there, stuff you're around all the time. I don't think you notice it much, but when you're away from it and then you step back into it, you're like, oh, this is.
Well, you got to realize too, a lot of those homes, at least in the neighborhood I lived in, were brand new, and then you had most of those homes.
Area.
Even though the cherries. Well, and the areas where you guys lived, weren't they around since the 60s? I mean, they were just built.
1963 is when my parents moved in. It was called Sundown.
Sundown, huh?
Yeah, that was the name of that community, was Sundown. And that they built those through the 60s and then into the 70s as they branched further down or up, I guess, northward.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff.
Huh, interesting. I didn't know it was called Sundown. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then, as far as news about other people, I've talked to, the update with Sean. Sean's been in Utah a couple times. He and Alan are trying to help his family, his mom and dad. And so anyway, I had a good long conversation with Sean the other day about that subject. And it's one that our age group's going to be struggling with. And we'll probably have a podcast that we talk specifically about that for the whole episode. But that is happening now. Our parents, I mean, you've already kind of gone through this already. Your mom is, she's over 90, right? And
3, she's 4 next month.
And it really does come down to the question, when is the right time to move into a retirement home? And what's the proper way our generation should handle that? How do you talk to your parents, and how do you convince them that now's the time to, are they financially in a position to do it? I mean, there's a lot of factors involved. Or should you take the primary role and help them in their later years? And so, I mean, it'd be fascinating to get, some perspective from some of our listeners who are dealing with that. Please reach out to us, and we'd like to kind of hear, your feedback, what works and what doesn't. And if one of you feels strongly about it, we'd love you to be a third, the third dad bod. You don't have to be male either these days. You can be confused about your gender. So we'll take anybody.
On a happier note. So, and what kind of brought, talking about the neighborhood again. So last time my wife and I were out, we're driving, and Jason Mraz. I don't know if you like Jason Mraz at all, but he always makes me happy. His songs are always feel good.
Yeah, his songs are kind of cotton candy, but anyway.
They're good. So on one of his live albums, he does a rendition of All Night Long from Lionel Richie. And I was listening to that last night with my wife, and I suddenly had a flashback of what we call our outside of Utah neighborhood listeners. We call it the steakhouse. It's not where you go and eat steak. Up here, Carl, away from your phone.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just important, so I had to make sure. There you go.
But it's an area where we as kids spent a lot of time with dances, with athletics. We had a lot of time that was spent at this, what we call steakhouse. And listening to that song reminded me of a church dance that was going on at the same time that Lionel Richie was in town. And, it just brought that little flashback in my head, but I got to remembering, thinking of closing my eyes and remembering that feeling of early Saturday morning, getting up, putting on the uniform, going down to the steakhouse, entering in those double doors and going into that gym, that was our time.
And it always had a smell. There's always a smell.
But it was just that feeling of being on that court. And to us, it may as well have been the Forum or Boston Garden or the Salt Palace or wherever, because it's our bullet by 45 foot release area. We together. And we battled and we fought. And I can always just remember just walking in those double doors, looking to the right up there with the little scoreboard that was right up there, walking around over to the stage, putting on the shoes, got the uni on, representing our little niche of a neighborhood. It was a lot of fun.
Speaking of basketball gyms, and this is a subject you and I can relate to. When I was growing up, I played in a lot of basketball gyms in the Utah area. Speaking of smells, the old gyms were the best because you would walk in and there was just this distinct odor, and it wasn't a negative odor. I mean, well, most of the time, it was, I don't know if it was the wood. I don't know if it was the court itself or the basketballs, because they get really greasy.
Everything.
It must be a combination of everything. Because the church that I lived across the street from, I mean, you smell carpet, and you got nice carpet beds a lot of times.
Man, did you ever? Or rolled ankles, or
But man, that smell. So if I say Cypress Gym, what is the first thought you think of?
Well, I have a different thought than you probably have.
Well, you played on that court a lot.
Yeah, I don't think of a smell. I think of an atmosphere.
Okay.
And I think of the two ends that had bleachers. And I think of, in the fourth quarter, guys that were in their 40s and 30s showing up from the copper mine wearing their old Letterman jackets, were there to fight. Like it was a hostile environment.
Well, and the other thing that I liked about the Cypress Gym is you had those big wood bleachers on both sides that would fold out. Yeah. And it was high. So the crowd was way above you. And then, of course, it would pull out to the court, right? When I went to school at Skyline, it was one of these modern big, like the roof was way up there and it was cavernous and
bolted down. It was like waves almost.
Oh yeah, and I don't know what they're doing on the remodel. They're remodeling it, but the bleachers, the bleachers were always the same size, Yeah, and I mean you could put a lot of people in, but I like those old gyms. There was one when we were playing in the church area up in, I think it was Holiday. It was this big old wood arena that was next to a church. It was weird. It was a basketball court for a church court, and same thing, just those old fashioned gyms. I actually love them. I don't know how many are left in Utah now, but do you see those out in Tennessee at all? You ever come across them anymore?
There's no man systems out here.
No, I mean like wood gyms, like Cypress or.
I don't know. I mean, there's one that's at the community center down here that I'll go and play every once in a while, but
yeah.
It's not this, and I don't even know if youth sports there in Utah is the same as like we were with kids, because juniors came in, but like church basketball took precedent over stuff like that.
Here at the local high school, Pleasant Grove, they call it the hall or the pit. You walk in and it looks like a junior college. I mean, they put millions of dollars in this thing, and it looks like just a mini modern college super court, and you're just like, whoa. I mean, this is nothing like what we played on. Now it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I would love to play on
church athletics though. Does that still go on?
Not really. Not like it used to. I mean, they still have some of the stakes will do stuff, but the area stuff's gone. The region stuff's gone. They knocked down the Desert Gym, which is sad, for that big now mega dome LDS conference center, which is pretty cool as far as the design and walking through it. But I wish they would have moved it, because the Desert Gym, that was a solid place to go hang out downtown.
And the two best places where I would play against the best competition, no matter what age I was.
Desert Gym
was at the Desert Gym and at the state pen.
I had nothing playing the state pen, bro.
We did. We went in. We used to go every other week. I can't remember who it was.
Was that wearing your tattoo on
their drop?
Yeah.
No, we had a friend that was a guard at the state pen. And so a bunch of us would go down every other weekend and play basketball down there.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I've never seen people who could shoot. This was Steph Curry before Steph Curry.
I
doing that way before.
Well, there was one place better than Desert Gym. Was actually on my mission. I decided to bow off to the Saturday session of General Conference with my companion. We were supposed to be at the.
Can you say that? Would that be excommunicated as a mission?
No, we weren't. Well, we went down to what's called South Street in Philly, and they have some public courts, and they play winners all day long. And it was a beautiful spring morning, and the temperature was perfect. We got this white boy from Princeton who played for the Princeton basketball team. So myself, my whitest snow companion, and two other guys that were white. So 5 of us all day. We played the next 2.5 hours straight on that court because we kept winning. And I mean, it was funny because the African Americans we were playing were like rubbing each other, like, what? White boys kicking ass, and it got really kind of simple. couple individuals that got a little upset at us, and we finally lost. But man, that was some of the funnest. That was some of the most fun basketball I've ever played. I mean, it was convenient. We would throw gym because in Philly, it's awesome. You go down the street, go around the corner, and you see 8 or 9 guys playing basketball. And so, middle of a Wednesday afternoon. So, what we would do is we'd just pull our high tops out of our backpacks where we had our Book of Mormons, and then we would throw them on our suits, in our business pants and white shirts, and we'd play for an hour, get real sweaty, and then hand them Book of Mormons if we won, and tell them that they had to listen to a discussion, which none of them ever did. But it was fun, man. It was Philly knows how to play it. They call it they know how to throw it and kill them.
Well, good podcast, bud. Good to see you again and to talk to our listener again.
Hopefully that was a good mix today between political and old memories. So we hope you enjoy the podcast, even though it's going to be probably when we want to do it.
Sounds good, buddy. Great talking to you, and welcome.
Yep.
We'll see you guys again.
Thanks for watching Three Dad Bods. New episodes are released every Wednesday evening. Look for us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify Podcasts. Have a totally awesome weekend, everyone, and see you next week.